Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us tonight on The Bottom Line. We say the bottom line, business at the speed of thought. Tonight, we have a couple of discussions coming up on our show. But before that, let me remind you that we are coming to you live from our studios here at Laboni or Rage here in Accra. So we've moved from Laboni to Rage. You will see that Metro TV has had a long history of living or staying in Laboni, but we are now situated here at Rage. And so we are coming to you live from our studios here at Rage in Accra. We are live on DSTV channel 277. We are live on our Facebook pages, Chairman Kwesi Free, and of course, Metro TV News page. Tonight, we have a lineup of discussions coming up. The 2021 census has begun officially, and yesterday was the census night, the 27th of June. We were to look at where you were or where you slept as of last night, which is very significant in what the statisticians call enumeration. Tonight, we are going to go through all the questions to ask them what the enumeration means, who qualifies to be counted, how the process is going to go. If they come into your house, what kind of questions should you expect from them, and how are you able to answer all of these questions? What timelines have they given themselves, and what would be the results? What is even the impact of the population and housing census that's being carried out with all the huge sums of monies that's being pumped into it? That's your tax, my tax, that's being pumped into all of this by government. So it's an insightful night tonight. Then also, we'll have the Mobile Money Agents Association come into the studio to talk to us about their opposition to the taxes which have been increased for them. They say that, first of all, it was 5%, that's operational taxes, was 5%. It was increased to 10% on their blind side. And then now, officially, it's been increased to 20%. They say this cannot happen under the prevailing circumstances. In a time when we are just coming out of COVID, where every business is recovering, they also are recovering, and they are not making much profits. And so government cannot touch their sector. We will be having the General Secretary and other members of the Momo Agents Association to come into the studio to talk to us about all of this. But the big one is the census night. We want to go on a quick break. When we are back, we'll have experts from the Ghana Statistical Service right here in the studio, and our discussions will begin. Stay with us. You're welcome back from the break. I've told you earlier on that tonight we are having the big one. The 2021 population and housing census has begun. And so tonight that's our big topic, after which we'll have a look at the concerns raised by Momo Agents Association about taxation of their operational activities. But where were you last night, the 27th of June 2021, which was declared as the census night? What's the significance of that? Some of us are very laymen when it comes to statistics and some of these, the impacts and all of that. So we have experts here in the studio to ask all of the questions that is bothering your mind and that are bothering my mind as well. To my immediate left is Mr. Owusu Keja, the head of Census Methodology Workstream. Good evening and thank you very much for joining us, sir. I hope you're doing well. And I can see you are clad in your GSS apparel and ready for action.
Sure.
And then to my extreme left is Dr. Joseph Kofi, who is a senior lecturer and a policy analyst. He will be telling us about the essence and the impact. What are we to expect? Doctor, good evening and thank you very much for joining us tonight.
All right. Good evening.
I hope you're doing well as well.
Yes, but my name is Kofi Ejapon Damu.
Dr. Kofi Ejapon.
Joseph Kofi Ejapon Damu.
Right. Thank you very much for the correction. And so that's duly noted. So let me begin with you, Mr. Usukeja. Let's begin with last night, the 2021 census night. When you say census night, what does it mean? A lot of people didn't understand what you meant, and people thought you were going to come into their homes. I thought you would come into my house last night, but you were not there.
Sure. So thank you very much for the opportunity. And so yeah, that was a misconception that a section of the population held Thankfully, I think the explanation is going down well. And so census night is the reference point to all our census questions. And so what it means is that when the enumerators come to your house, the biggest question that you're asking is, where did you spend the night? And so that will give us a sense of where an individual has to be counted. And so it's also because we are using what we refer to as a de facto count.
And so what does that mean, de facto count?
Yeah, so what it means is that we are counting people at where they were found on census night, as opposed to using the degree method. You know, you can use either degree method or de facto method. So over the years, Ghana has used the de facto because in this country we have realized that people live in multiple homes. And so if you want to use their usual place of residences, you are likely to count some people more than once. And so the essence of using the census night as a reference point is to avoid double counting.
And what was to happen after last night? Today we have run through almost 16 hours already. What was to happen, and has that started happening already?
Sure. So yesterday on census night, we had two sets of objectives to achieve. One was to make a lot of noise around the date, because that is our reference point. We want everybody to remember this date so that they will be able to tell us where they were. The other objective was also to enumerate 4 groups of people that we had identified. And so yesterday, aside the noise that we made, we also enumerated these groups of people. And today, we started the enumeration of the other categories of population.
So what are the first 4 groups of people? And then we'll come to the other categories, categorizations.
Okay. So yesterday, we're looking at a group that we refer to as floating population.
Floating population.
Yes, so these are people who on the night were traveling long distances. And so they were traveling from, say, Accra to Tamale, Takoradi to Kumasi, and for which reason the night would have catch them up on the road. But then we don't stop people on the road and count them. And so at the point of departure is when we enumerate them. And so we had designed a short instrument to capture these people. And then the other group, that happened around 3 p.m. So between 3 p.m. 6 p.m. we had also covered these people. And these are people who were at the hospitals. So we're talking about the sick person who had been admitted at the hospitals. And so again, because of their conditions, we had designed a short questionnaire to administer to these people. And then the third group are people who spend the night in hotels. So we also arranged with the hotel managers and enumerated all persons who spend the night in hotels. Then the last group are people we refer to as homeless population. And these are people who, as the name goes, don't have homes. And so they usually will sleep in front of shops, in front of people.
We see a lot of them around Circle and all of those places.
And so before yesterday, long time before yesterday, we had identified the sleeping places of these people, and we covered them yesterday.
Let me come to you, Doc. You must be keenly interested in this process, being a policy analyst, of course, and a lecturer, knowing that all of these would come up in your lecture notes, and also advising government on policy decisions and the actions that all stakeholders, not government alone, has to consider when it comes to the making of policies and implementation of policies as well. So I can presuppose that you have followed this right from the listing of structures and all that. How has it been going for you? And you have been counted before, not this time alone, 2010 and probably previous years.
All right. Thank you very much, and good evening to your listeners.
Right.
I think this is the third time that we are doing both the population and housing census in this country. And then what is significant about this one, from my own observation, is the inclusion of technology. So if what I've heard is correct, then it means they will be able to pick, data, transport it. The accuracy will be much more better if the enumerators are well trained and prepared and honest with the information. And then, from the business perspective, businesses will now get accurate information. So, for instance, we talk about social media, being the thing of the day. However, how many people are even able to use it effectively?
Right.
So it will inform businesses, for example, as to the percentage of the population that you can engage online, for instance. There's a whole section on financing, so the use of mobile money, the use of other banking services. So when you look at the instrument that they are using, it's quite detailed. If we'll get the right information, and as the discussion proceeds, I'll highlight on that. But
so for you, it's going well so far?
Yes, my only problem is the communication hasn't gone down so well. I mean, I have a peculiar interest, so I follow it. But the average Ghanaian knows very little about what is going on. And my house, or in my area, for instance, I mean, I won't mention where I live, but I haven't seen any. I see people on the other side of town, but in my neighborhood, I don't see any.
You haven't seen the enumerators come to your house, right?
No.
They haven't come?
No.
Why do you know of this? And have you had the instances where people are reporting that their structures haven't been listed yet?
Yes, we have a few of such areas.
And why is it so?
Yes, so one has to do with disputes of boundaries. I'm talking about dispute of boundaries. I don't know where Doc lives, but in Accra, for instance, there was a particular area between Adentan and Medina where we had a challenge with. But that
That's where the area belonged to, Adentan municipality, or
yes,
it was?
But it's been resolved, and so it could be. I don't know whether that is where Doc is. But
that's not bad.
Apart from that area, we also identified some areas that were too big to be covered by one enumerator, and so they needed support. So we have given those support, and so in some of the areas, listing are still ongoing. But those are just few areas.
But listing should have been done by now.
Sure, but that is giving us the baseline information to be able to, and so the fact that we couldn't, finish with the listing exercise doesn't mean that we cannot go ahead with the.
But that's kind of a threat, because you're supposed to finish this whole exercise on the 11th of July, and you have a 5-day kind of moratorium or extension, allowable extension to go on, and we are going through this at this time and now identifying all of these. And we should have thought that Ghana Statistical Service, you would have all this data even before you begin the whole process. So if we are going through this at this stage, then we may not be able to meet the timeline.
No, so we could have even said that the listing will start today, so that as you go ahead, we do both listing and enumeration. But we decided to do the listing first before. And so for these few challenges that I talked about, I don't think that is something that will mar the exercise.
You think the exercise will go on as planned? And then Doc mentioned, I'll come to you, Doc, briefly, but Doc mentioned the use of technology. How effective is that currently? We saw the Vice President going through the process today. It means you have started deploying the technology. Is it effective enough, or you're having challenges?
Very, very effective. And so use of technology is not just about the use of tablets. In almost all the processes we use technology. And as Doc said, we noticed that it's going to give us an improved data compared to what we were using previously. We were doing previously.
Doc mentioned training. In fact, Doc,
Sure.
within the short period, mentioned a lot of things which I've stated. But he mentioned training. Have your people been trained enough to use the applications that you are deploying?
Sure. So between the 1st of this month and the 11th of this month, it was an 11-day training period that we gave to our field officers. And so yes, we on our part have trained these enumerators and supervisors, and we think that they have been equipped with all the necessary knowledge and capacity to be able to achieve what we intend achieving.
So just before I come to you to ask you about what we should expect when an enumerator comes into our house, Doc, let me come back to you. You were talking about the advantages so far. Should we engage in all of these and get the data, what the data can be used for? But people have asked the questions of the NIA gathering almost the same data. Was it a point that we should come to after we have gone through the NIA process with the Ghana card, gathering data and making sure every Ghanaian has a Ghana card? Purposes of the same purposes, we are going to use the Ghana card for the same purposes we are using the data for.
Okay, thank you very much. You know, every society or group of people these days run with data. Everything that we do is data driven. The Ghana card, the data for the Ghana card, those are best personal data for other aspects of our lives. And then the census data, both the household and population census, is also will give us a bigger picture and then also be able to narrow it down for policy planning purposes. So there are two different sets of data, but the use, we need both of them as a matter of fact. For instance, we've been making a lot of noise, about education, health, fix the country. I mean, how do we know what we are fixing? Yes. Where are the people? We've been talking about a lot of migrants in the country, coming from our neighboring countries. What is the number? What is the size? So without such an exercise, it would be difficult. And even if we know the size, even internally, there are migration patterns. Where are people moving from? We talk about urban, rural migration. Which rural areas are moving to Accra? Which rural areas are moving to Kumasi? So even if you want to address that, you have to also look at that.
But Doc, as a policy analyst, should we wait for 10 years before we do this?
Yes, and not necessarily 10 years, but you can't collect census data every year. No, it's too expensive.
Districts can do it on their own.
Yes.
The regions can do it on their own within the municipalities and the assemblies.
After a period, let's say with this 10-year activity, then in between the 10 years, now we have a baseline. So institutions, government institutions and educational centers, institutions like universities and researchers can pick aspects of the data and do an in-depth study and do specific data collection. So for instance, if I'm looking at Hausa people in Accra, or I want to look at the characteristics or the facilities in places like Nima or Medina, as he spoke about, then because I have the census information, then I can go back and do facility mapping and say, okay, out of the 800 people living in Medina or Zongo Junction, there's a public toilet here, there's a water, public water station, there's a refuse dump here. All those things, we need some of this information to be able to also plan.
But do you actually use them? And for as an academician, for your students as well who need to do their researches and all that, do they actually use this data that you're talking about?
As a matter of fact, yes. And then we need it. One of the, even development partners, it's not just even locally. The World Bank, the IMF, the United Nations, FAO, all these development partners, when you are going in for support or giving grants, I won't go into the loans aspect, and you are asking for support for specific activities, how do they determine whether what you said you need it is actually what you need or it's just what you want? It is the data set that will drive that. So
I ask that because, for example, in our political setup, well, of course, this is a business show. Yeah. When it's getting to the election period, you see a lot of research institutions coming up with researches they have done as to who would win the elections and all that. And you see that their sample size is taken from, for example, only Greater Accra, without considering the demography of the country, without considering the statistics from the Ghana Statistical Service and all of these things that you are talking about. And this comes from a particular mindset. The research they would have done comes from a particular mindset. And they still use that to project who will win the elections, for example.
I mean, that's a very skewed analysis.
But we see that. We see that when
you can't stop people from doing the wrong thing. But good institutions, I mean, University of Ghana, GIMPA, KNUST, won't do that kind of research and go out and say this is, represent. No, any good researcher will do. You have to have a representative sampling. You can talk about the people in Greater Accra, their opinions, fine, but to use that for the whole country will be difficult, because the characteristics are different. Yeah.
So let me come back to you, Mr. Owusu Kaja. We've seen some people on the screen trying to enter somebody's house. I want to ask, what are the exact questions we should expect from them when they come, these enumerators, so that people don't get aggressive if they are asked specific or certain particular questions? Just give us a sample of the questions that we are to expect from them.
Thank you very much. Before I go into that, can I add a
Yes, please, you're allowed to.
Okay, so the question of using NIA as opposed to census, and I like the response given by Doc. Most of the people who think that NIA data should be substituted for census data are looking at just the numbers. But as Doc said, the census data is so resourceful. We have a lot of, and later when I go into the data that we're getting from it, you'll be able to appreciate this.
Yes, sir.
And then also, I think Doc touched on that. Census is conducted every 10 years. But in between the censuses, we also conduct some other surveys.
Okay.
And so we talk about the Ghana Living Standard Survey. We talk about the Ghana Demographic and Health Survey, the Core Welfare Indicators Questionnaire Survey, and some other surveys that are conducted in between to complement the census data. And as Doc mentioned, we are spending 521 million on the census. And so the resources that is going into the conduct of the census, and then also the preparation. We cannot do this. Well, the advanced countries, some of them do it every 5 years, but they even do it on a certain scale. And so, and then the use of the census data. The number of researchers that every day come to Statistical Service requesting for
in fact, I go to your website quite a lot to look for data and to look for percentages to do what I do.
Sure, sure. So, and most cases, we limit the discussion to government. But apart from government using the data, we also have the academicians and students and some other individuals also making use of the data.
So now, before you come to, kindly indulge me, before you come to the type of questions, because we are talking about the data and its usage, there was a question that came regarding compromising on the data, because we are going to get the number of employed and unemployed, which is very sensitive. So we are going to get employment data from this census which has begun. How sure are we that we are not going to compromise on that? Because we are being funded by government. We are told the percentages of employment or the rate of unemployment here in the country. If you are done and it goes up, are we going to see that? And if it goes down, are we going to see that as well?
We are doing our work as professionals.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are coming to your home and we are asking you basic questions.
Mm-hmm.
Questions that at the end of the day will enable us to measure these indicators. And so for me, it's not like somebody sitting somewhere to say that give this information as the unemployment rate or otherwise. What
GSS can't be compromised
not at all.
on the employment data.
If whatever we are coming out are the information that we are getting from the enumerators.
Doc, let me pick your view on that. I'm sure as a researcher, you encounter some of these things, especially when you are commissioned by an organization which has a lot of money to do some kind of research for them. And so government of Ghana is commissioning this census that we are having now. Employment data will be very, very, very sensitive. How do you anticipate the use of that and the outcome on that particular data?
First of all, let me tackle it from two angles. If the government wasn't interested, they won't put it on the instrument. Because if you are going to put, a line or an item on an instrument to check, it means that you really want that. So I'll be surprised that they'll find a way of compromising it. And then, even the way they are collecting the data, it will be very difficult for government to even tamper with it because these are live information. They are using tablets and it will go straight to a data center. So by day 3 of counting, you know the number of people who are unemployed based on the number of people that have been counted. So at what point are you going to intervene? So it will be difficult. And
that's why you like the use of technology.
Yes. So everybody can monitor and can follow. I mean, if you look at, so for instance, you can't tell me that as of day 5, you have counted 10 million of the people, and out of the 10 million, 100,000 are employed. Then by day 10, you have counted 35 million people, and then
25,000 are unemployed.
I
get the angle you're coming from. And especially because it is live, it's also... So let me come now back to you, Mr. Usukaja. The type of questions we should expect. Unfortunately, our time is up, so I'll be rounding up with this set of questions. And so the type of questions we should expect when they come.
Okay, so to summarize, we have about 13 different models on the census instrument. And so we are looking at the basic information around socio-demographic characteristics.
Sure.
And so that is where we are getting to know your age, your sex, marital status, your ethnic background, your religious affiliation, nationality. Remember, the census is also it's about everybody.
Exactly.
Whether you are a national or otherwise. And then we also getting information on literacy and education. We have questions around ICT, as Doc mentioned. We have questions around economic activity and difficulties in performing activities. So here, we're looking at people who have difficulties, trying to measure people who have difficulties in walking, in hearing, seeing.
Persons with disabilities.
Yes, so at the end of the day, we'll be able to measure disability out of that. Here, we are not looking at just those with disabilities, but the extent of difficulty. We are able to measure that. We are also getting questions on fertility. So for women who are 12 years and older, we are asking them.
This is more detailed than the previous census.
Sure. We have added on some questions.
No.
We are asking questions on immigration. We are asking questions on mortality, how many deaths we have experienced within the household.
Wow.
We are also getting questions on housing conditions and sanitation as the last model.
I hope that will bring us up to the point where government will now increase the speed, the speed with which it is putting up affordable housing. But let me come to you, Doc. Some people think that this is an exercise I don't want to say infertility, but it's an exercise they shouldn't get involved in. If we are counting the people in Ghana, what's my business?
You know, for Christians, you know, even if you follow, you know, religion very well,
yes,
even the birth of Jesus Christ was around the period of census. So
exactly.
we've been counting for a long time. The essence of counting, you know, if you say you are not interested, you know, then basically you are also not interested in the development of our country. And I don't think anybody else will have that idea. For me, my issue will be, and my wish, let me call it that way, that we'll get the enumerators, you know, as he said, they are well trained and give us accurate data, because just like, you know, in politics, we say elections are won at the polling station. The good data, the goodness of the data
is collected on the field.
Yes, it's on the enumerator. So if it collects as well, the instrument is good, then we are bound to get good data, because we need data for social services, for socio-economic development, for business development. If we are bringing in foreign investors, they need to have accurate data, even on the characteristics of the people, the economic capacity, and all those things.
So, Doc and Mr. Owusu, we'll have you back here, I think, on the 11th of July to assess how enumeration has gone so far and how the participation and the process, how smooth it has been so far. But thank you very much for your time tonight. Mr. Owusu Keja, 1 minute, okay, that's fine.
Yes, so just to thank you and to thank Ghanaians for supporting us to get information on the first part of the exercise, which was very, very important to us. And now going into the second half of the exercise, we believe that we still need their support, and so they should open up to our enumerators and supervisors as they come to them and give us the accurate information about themselves and their members of their household, so that we all get the credible data that Doc is talking about.
Yeah, so open up, give us the most accurate data about yourself and about your household. This is coming in from the horse's own mouth. You need to participate in this because it is a very key and important national exercise. So Mr. Owusu Keja is the head of Census Methodology Work Stream, and Dr. Joseph Kofi Ejapon Damoy is a policy analyst and a senior lecturer. So they've done us the honors of detailing the process of Census 2021 census to us. You have to get yourself counted. Stay right with us. We'll be right back. And I told you about the Mumbo Agents Association's opposition to the recent tax hikes in the operational activities. We'll be right back.
We are not safe, and with a lot of reasons we are not safe. Someone might call, they might come physical, and it's a whole lot of things involved in all these things, because we always put our life here every day. It's just that when you come and you go home, you just thank God, because anything can happen at any time, any given day at all. If you haven't experienced anything, doesn't mean they are not looking. They are always looking. They always want to find the right time to attack. So we are not safe.
One. Okay, me one time ago, my boss no more attacking, but normally say na you cook a crama no. Na see also because of send humanity no, ama emu ayi hu. Wo kra na usuro. Time also the pon na dia no kra dey say o de be pon. Why bon pa say e be yen potato bi o ha ye so eja e be boa ye nya vendors no. Ayi hu pa isi anu what wo kra na ye mi show by 6:30 no so open. Sometimes we be could be seen scanner there, but because of sanity, and to me, and the crowd say, I tackle be war, cheer here, and tell you who am I, and I say, I'm going to be normal from boy.
I've been hearing other agents being attacked, killed, and myself I've been defrauded twice. So I'm not safe at all, but I'm just praying for the best.
Right, so that's some mobile money agents talking about the issue of security there. And it's very worrying. I mean, I've witnessed some circumstances where an agent was attacked and the money taken away. But tonight, we want to have a look at the opposition to the increment of their taxes rather than the security. So we may touch on it a bit. There are issues of fraud as well. So we may touch on those ones briefly. But they have issued a press release, which comes from the Mobile Money Agents Association of Ghana, MAG, dated 25th of June 2021. And they have talked about a number of issues. The main one is that they oppose the operational taxes of 20%, which is being imposed on them, and the fact that they are not making enough profit. So at the time when we are all recovering from COVID, it is insensitive on the part of government to impose on them this kind of tax. I was going to ask the questions right away, but let me introduce my guest to you tonight. To my extreme left is Emmanuel Williams, who is the founder of the Mobile Money Agents Association. Emmanuel, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening, my brother. Good evening.
Right, and then we have Evans Otumfuo. Otumfuo is the General Secretary of the Mobile Money Agents Association of Ghana, MAG. Otumfuo, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening to you.
So let me begin with you. You say the 20% increment is insensitive.
Exactly.
Why so?
Okay, so good evening to your cherished viewers and then the entire mobile money populace. We believe that this 10% increment making 20% is in a way government being so much unfair to us, especially at a time when day in, day out, we are crying out for our security. Armed robbers are on us, killing us. People are pouring acid on us. Fraudsters are all over us, and a whole lot of insecure environment in which mobile money agents find themselves. And for government should rather come in at this time to impose an additional 10% tax on us. We feel like it is something that we can't just understand what has really motivated government to take this decision. Just last week, we were all witness to, a bizarre attack on a mobile money agent who happens to be a professional teacher who was killed just like that, leaving families behind, and no one has really shown greater commitment or interest in this case. It is something that we keep thinking about it and we cannot really get the tail and then the head of it.
Yeah. So let me ask you, Williams, you are in business, and so taxes should be imposed on you. Taxes should be increased. You don't agree to that?
Yeah, we really agree to that. And as a good citizen, there's no way you should dodge taxes. That's why I'm saying that there's already a tax that we are paying already. So it's not like we are opposing the tax, we are opposing the act of paying tax. We're already paying tax. So why then do you have to add another tax to it? One, without our consent, and also increase it. We don't understand. You understand? Because if I'm paying tax already and you want to increase the tax, inform me. I mean, invite me, let me be informed, discuss with me, let me understand why you are imposing that tax on me. Then we will understand. If you don't understand, then we have to oppose it. So
it's like as your employers, the communication agencies or companies, let me say so, MTN, Vodafone, Airtel Tigo, and so on and so forth, who have to engage you? Or you think it should be government who should engage you? Because government will be engaging MTN and Vodafone and those companies. No, they have to engage also because they know of our existence. We are partners to telcos. So if you are engaging the telco on our taxes and you know of our existence, you should also engage us in the engagement. So you can't go behind us and have an engagement with the telco without involving us, especially when you know of our existence. If you know we don't exist, that's fine. We have several engagements with you, which when you even go to our Facebook page, you see our pictures with the former Deputy Minister of Communication and other stuff. We've met with the government, we met with the Vice President, Dr. Baumia, and other stakeholders. So they know of our existence. Then, if you want to take any decision on us, you have to involve us.
that has been our
but let me come to you, Otunfo. You don't agree that it should be the banks, the telecos, who should engage you? They have employed you. The taxes go through them and come to you. You don't agree they should engage you?
Honestly, we are partners in this business. We are both meeting each other halfway to ensure the sustenance or the growth and then the development of this business. And so we don't see the reason why we play such a critical or important role in the success of this business for you to go behind us, give directive to our partner, that is the telcos, to effect an additional 10% tax on us without considering our input or without considering, the prevailing circumstances within the mobile money space as we speak now. So for us now, we believe that we highly oppose that decision or idea to take any action relating to mobile money without the practical implementers of the whole mobile money.
I agree, but I'll come back to you to ask you, what percentage do you want? Okay. Do you want a zero increment, or you agree that it should be increased, but to what extent? But let me come to you to ask the process. How does it work?
The process?
Yes, the process. I want to understand the process, or I should put that to you.
No, I'm okay. Let me understand.
You're okay with that? I want to understand the process so that we're able to place it well. Whether it should be borne by the telcos or you should actually bear that cost. Or
okay, for where they want the tax to be effected, then it needs to be borne by us, because they want it to be effected on our cash out commission. That's after a withdrawal is made. When you, the customer, is charged of 1 cedi on 100 Ghana, we agents are supposed to get a fee of 40 pesos on it. So on that 40 pesos is
on 100 Ghana or 10 cedis.
I mean, on 100 Ghana, the customer is charged 1 cedi. Out of that 1 cedi, you get 40 pesos from it. So the tax is being imposed on the 40 pesos that we are getting.
And that's why my problem is, why should it not be the telecommunication companies?
No, because now...
Because they have 60%.
For that one, we cannot answer. But according to the information we have, the tax must be imposed on what we are gaining after cash out is done.
The tax is being imposed on the operational charge. And the operational charge is, for example, 1 cedi. And out of the 1 cedi, agents are getting 40%. And the telecommunication company is getting 60%. And government now says the operational charge should come at a tax percentage of 20% instead of the 10%. Why is the operational charge not done on the 1 cedi before the remaining is shared between you and the telecommunication company, the 60-40? Why does the telecommunication company take out its 60 and charge you the 20% on your 40%? That's where my problem is.
Right. I think there is something here that all of us needed to get it very right. That 60% is not going to the telcos for the record's sake.
Right. Okay.
It is not going to the telcos. That 60%, we have the banks that are serving or holding our float.
Yes.
The banks have a share in it. The telcos have a share in it. And then the government also has a share in it. So if you look at the whole composition, the telcos are only taking about just 20% of that 60%. Yeah. And so there is a general view in the public that the telcos are taking, in fact, 60% of the total charges that we effect on
but that is not the case.
That is not the case.
But my point is the percentage, 20% should be taxed to that 1 cedi before everybody, whether the banks or government or whoever is involved or agents, begin to get. Why is it on your 40%? So we will arrange another meeting. Unfortunately, our time is up. Okay. But we will arrange another meeting. However, your point is that you shouldn't be taxed that 20%. Is that the case?
10%.
You shouldn't be taxed that 20%.
10% is 10%.
That 10%.
We are being charged.
Are you going to go on demonstration if there is no change?
Before I answer your question,
our time is up. 30 seconds.
Sure. The thing is, we are not opposing the payment of tax. It is our civic responsibility to do that. We are not opposing it. So that is well said. Now, as to whether we are going on a demonstration or not, this one I think is a preserve for us now. When we get to
Are you considering that?
For now, it is not on the table. We have an action on the table that we are dealing now.
Right.
When that action exceeds, its potential,
Then you go on
then
the
we'll try to consider.
So,
any
Evans
other
Otumfuo
available-
is the General Secretary of Mobile Money Agents Association of Ghana, and Emmanuel Williams is the founder of the Mobile Money Agents Association of Ghana. Charles Kwesi Addo, you say today is your birthday, so happy birthday to you. He's also the National PRO of the Mobile Money Agents Association. He was supposed to be here, but we'll arrange another meeting and get into the details of this. My name is Kwesi Efri. We came to you live from Ridge here in Accra. Good evening to you all.
Metro TV, insightful and inspiring moments.